What I believe is common sense, I'm learning it's not that common. This episode is a little different than previous episodes for a really important reason. Often, when I'm asked to speak to a group and offer encouragement, I tell the story of a man named Don Smith. His story includes a lot of pain and a lot of darkness, but along his journey, you also see redemption, you see hope, and a whole lot of success. Don has worked with me in private business for over a decade, and I share our relationship on this episode to highlight some of the things that helped empower him to defeat addiction, defeat a life of crime, and what you're going to see is the role that small business and community can have in changing people's lives. About a third of the people that work for me in my private business come from the sober living community. What you hear on this episode is the reason why this has become one of my life's most important purposes. I hope you enjoy this conversation with a man I deeply admire, my friend, Don Smith. Don Smith, my boy, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I'm so glad you're in here just to have this chat. I want to tell your story. In fact, I tell your story a lot, as you know, and because I know you've had people that have come into stores and seen you at places and be like, man, I've heard about you. When I speak at events, many times if I'm trying to encourage a group, I share your story frequently because your story has incredible impact. It's a story that has some real depths, but real peaks. And it's a story of what you've had to overcome and the role that community has in helping people overcome incredible obstacles. So I want to preface, we'll talk about some hard stuff today.
That's okay.
But I want everyone to know to hold on through the end of this conversation. It's a real happy story. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We'll cover some dark stuff, but I want people to know, man, where this thing is going. So,
sure.
So man, I'm glad you're here today. You're always vulnerable. You're always willing to chat, and I appreciate that. So
thanks.
All right, bud. So our relationship began back in July of 2010, right? Walk me through it.
It was actually July 6th, 2009. That's your dad's birthday.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's it, 2009.
2009, yeah. It's a day I'll never forget. It changed the trajectory in my life forever. Sean Lund, who I'm sure we'll go over at some point, introduced me that day. He said, hey, I think I can get you a job. At the time I was doing door-to-door sales for his brother, Shane. And Sean brought me to the mall, and he said, look, I'm going to be really cut and dry with these guys. I'm going to tell them the truth. And I said, well, I expect no less. Well, I didn't know what the truth was going to entail. We sat there for about 10 minutes and gave you guys all the bad stuff. Hey, he's got a lot of chaos in his life. He's not going to make great decisions. He is an absolute mess to manage. But if we can capture enough of the good side, he's going to make you guys a whole lot of money.
Yes.
And that was pretty much it. And you and Mark looked at each other and went, okay, we'll take a shot.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah, that's right. Town West Mall. When you think about Town West and the food court nowadays, but back then, man, we had stores and I love to tell the story of how the Mattress Hub, my company that we founded, how it began in malls, and we just took advantage of foot traffic, and that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother story.
Sure.
But it was in the food court at Town West Mall. Yeah. And I'll never forget, Donnie, you come walking in. Now you'd been in prison.
I had been.
You'd done time. How long did you do before we met?
2009, I had already done a federal sentence, which was just a PV of 18 months, and I had done a consecutive 18-month sentence in the state. So I paroled to my federal detainer and went and did that. So 36 months total with good time, about 30 months.
You come walking into this food court. You had white shoes on, you remember? Yeah. White dress shoes on. Yeah. And I remember thinking, and you said, hey, listen, I'm going to give you the best I got. I need a job. I need to work. I need to provide. And we threw you in the mix, and sure enough, Sean wasn't lying, man. You got right in and started selling, and right out of the gate became one of the top salesmen in the entire region. So that was a fateful day, but there's a lot that came before that. Like help me understand now your life. How did you get to that point to where you just finished over 30 months in prison? You're sitting in a food court with me talking about needing a job in a mattress company to sell mattresses. Like this life of addiction, this life of crime, like how'd you get to that point?
Well, looking back now, I could tell you exactly why, and I guess probably it's connected to the how. But what had happened with me is I was actually raised in a good home.
Great. Your parents are incredible.
Yeah. Played sports my whole life, at least in my youth, and every day was wrapped around athletics, soccer in particular. But I had something happen to me when I was 10 or 11 years old that was a traumatic experience in my childhood. And what happened was I held this in. It was this vulnerability point here. It was a sexual molestation. And what happened was I held that in. My dad was my hero. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. Kids don't know. And this person told me, if you ever do, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your parents. So not knowing how that would manifest itself, it did. And that's why I have such strong beliefs in effective coping mechanisms for trauma responses that lead to addiction, in my opinion. Because all of that stuff that happened in my home, now it was semi-broken. My dad was divorced.
Sure.
But I was raised by my stepmother. I never really had a biological mother. So knowing all that and now looking back, it was really, I got into some things into high school that were really, really bad and fell in with bad people, cared more about image than everything, and started using drugs. And it led to incarceration little bit by little bit and then into big things. I mean, it's just how it happened.
Yeah. You're right about your dad and your stepmom, who I know. They are wonderful. She's a faith-filled woman, a lovely, lovely lady. And you're right. This thing kind of crept up on you. It began with associations. It began with friendships, and then it became addiction. And addiction grabbed a hold of you in ways that that you probably never thought could happen.
Yeah.
Talk me through, Donnie, what that drug of choice was for you. I know I'm asking you to be vulnerable, but I want I want people to understand. I'll tell you, and my family's history. Mm-hmm. I have wonderful parents, and my parents made a decision for me and my siblings to move us from an area when we were very, very young because of a lot of addiction and a lot of crime that was generational in my family.
Sure.
I've seen my whole life a lot of addiction. I've seen a lot of violence with family members, and it caused me to have more of a calloused opinion towards addiction.
Yeah.
When I saw the brokenness that addiction created years ago, it moved me to anger. It moved me to judgment.
Sure.
It wasn't until really my relationship with you and a few other people in our organization to where I began to understand the dimensions and the complexity around addiction. Yeah. And it caused me to want to move to be more involved in trying to right the ship and help people right the ship in their lives. Tell me about what drugs did to you and what that was like.
So the drug addiction, what it did to me personally was obviously it impacted my ability to make a sound decision. And when you start using drugs at a young age, everything biologically and in your brain and so forth, it stops. You stop maturing, Now that I have teenagers, I see,
Sure.
Man, like my son Sean, he didn't figure it out until he was 22 years old, 21 years old. So what the drugs did to me was it stunted my ability to make a really sound decision. My tolerance for risk was just off the charts. Any risk-taking behavior. My drug of choice was stimulants. I never got wrapped up into the benzos or the painkillers.
You didn't want to slow down. You wanted to speed up.
I didn't want to slow down, yeah. And that's in my nature. I do believe that some of this, I can understand how people can't relate a lot to addictive behavior or addiction in general because they don't understand one, like I said, the trauma response, and for two, the neurological issues that it causes. My biological mother is an addict, so I think all those components together, what it led me to do was just to make awful decisions when it come to risk and very self-serving.
Yeah,
I was just get for me and get it for me now.
Yeah, and that addiction causes you to want to feed that addiction, and you start making decisions that are poor decisions to help feed that addiction and to keep that turning. So you come aboard, man. We have a wonderful relationship for a few years. Things are going really well. You're having incredible success. You made me a promise that day in the food court because I was tepid. I was cautious. I wanted to take a shot on you because I saw capacity and ability, and I wanted to help you right the ship. You made a promise to me that day because I was asking you about, things that you'd done in your past, a lot of white collar crime, a lot of fraud crimes. And I said, man, I'm going to bring you into my organization. How do I trust that you're never going to steal from me? And you made me a promise. I said, I promise you I'll never steal from you. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I had the United States Secret Service confirm to me that you never stole from me.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We had a lot of good years, and we're really, really having a lot of success, and you were having success. But in the background, the addiction still existed, and you had relapse after relapse after relapse. And then and it caused us to have to part ways. Yeah. What was the year, and what led to that? And walk me through that decision and the fateful day that you and I talk about frequently.
Sure. So what happened was 2009, I was, of course, sober and clean. Still hadn't addressed anything that would help with coping mechanisms. Okay. That wasn't until later. But so at the time, what I was doing is I was on my own free will, out of what small sense of integrity I think that I might have had. I tried to keep it together, but the outside factors kept impacting that. Yeah. And with when you are wired differently, and I do believe that addicts are wired differently. When you're wired differently, that doesn't take accountability away. Sure. That's the element to change. But what happened was I went back to those old triggers and those old responses, and I started using again. Actually, it was for the beginning of it was because I wanted to perform more. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be part of something. I wanted to be number one. You know how my insatiable need to be the best. So I would tell myself, hey, I've got to have more energy. I've got to do this. And what that led to was another addiction, which was gambling. Yes. And then the gambling addiction became so overwhelming that I couldn't pay my newfound, I've got bills now. I've got a car payment. I've got rent. Couldn't pay that stuff. And you once told me, you was like, man, it was at the end there, I was getting ready to didn't know that when I was getting ready to run. You're like, you're legitimately the only person I know that commits crimes to pay his bills. And, had the Escalade and all that stuff. So the gambling addiction fueled the other. I was staying up, going to work, going to gamble, coming home, going to work, going to gamble. It's all intertwined. And so getting caught, getting indicted. Yeah. Again, by the feds the second time.
So let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. When I hear the term, let me back up. When I heard the term indicted years ago, that would send a chill down my spine. I mean, that's a significant word to be used by people that are trying to function and be normal human beings in society. Yeah. It wasn't the first time you've been indicted. It wasn't the first felony that you caught. We had to terminate our business relationship. You had to go about your ways, and you tried to feed your habit and pay your bills through getting back involved in crimes. And what happened? How did this thing evolve to where an indictment was what came of this?
Once on the radar, always on the radar. I was doing such significant amounts of fraud that it caught the attention of the Department of Justice. When there's that much money, and it wasn't just check writing scams. I had taken my ability to communicate and used it for evil, basically. And the impact it has on society, the state says, here you go, to the feds, and the feds say, okay, we're going to play ball now. And so, again, that was the first time was kind of a tap on the wrist. I kind of got wrapped up in something. Yeah. It was a postal thing is what made it federal. The second time was just because I was out there guns blazing. So that's what happened. I got indicted. And it's a very scary thing, man.
Yeah. You're indicted. You get arrested. You go through court. Do you take a plea deal?
Yes.
You take a plea deal, and you're waiting to go turn yourself in. Mm-hmm. And right now I still have you, you come back, and I'm giving you some employment to try to pay the bills and set yourself up to go. You're going to turn yourself in. How long are you looking at when you're turning yourself in? Remind me.
I was just looking at 4 years because I played it down to 2. They knew, hey, you've been working, you've been doing this. I think you could probably have a positive impact on society. They really were giving me a chance. Yeah. So I pled to a 4-year no contest, just, hey, 2 counts run consecutive for aggravated identity theft, 2 counts, 4 years. That's what I was facing.
Yeah, 4 years. Mm-hmm. And you were prepared and you were going to go do it, and then something happened. Something broke.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened was I picked up again. I had stayed sober for 9 months while I was out on pretrial services working at the Mattress Hub. I lived at an Oxford house, and I was doing all the things that I'm capable of doing, but still not learning, still not applying the things that keep me sober today. So I picked up again when it was time to go. I didn't want to, the fear of going back, the anxiety. I went to my old cover the pain mechanism of using, and that's why I always use, was to cover the ability to feel. You just don't want the ability to feel sometimes, no matter how pain manifests itself in you, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's violence that you live around, all those things are all just, the using is the symptom of the problem. The real problem exists in what you're trying to cover.
Yeah. And you ran. Time to turn yourself in. I talked to you one day. You're heading down to Texas to turn yourself in. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I get a call. Nope, he bounced. He's on the run. What's that like?
I just decided to take matters, like I said, my tolerance for risk, man, was always at an all-time high. Yeah. People would be like, dude, I can't believe you're doing this. It's like Evel Knievel, but in other ways. So I got to Dallas, actually, and I was going to a Texas federal prison, and I had gotten self-surrender. They gave me self-surrender. They trusted me enough to get myself there. And I got out in Dallas and said, nah, I'm not going. And came back to Wichita. But you had such an impact on me. You had reached out to me and said, hey, man, what's going on? They're looking for you,
I found you.
Yeah. So I actually called you, and I remember it. I could see it in my mind's eye today. I did it, Ryan, honestly, because I think in some subconscious way I wanted you to talk me out of it. But I did want to say goodbye to you. There's always, the prodigal son. There's always that spirit. I was raised in a Christian home. I was raised to do right. And I just wanted to talk to one person in my life that brought me some peace, and that was you, and you talked me out of it.
Yeah. I remember that conversation. We're on the phone. At that point in time, you had your oldest son, you had 2 daughters, you had Sean, and then you had 2 young boys, little boys.
And Jackson was...
That's right.
She was pregnant with Jackson.
That's right. So Jeter was 2 years old?
Yeah.
And
2.
Jackson, she was pregnant with Jackson. I remember telling you, I'm like, Donnie, bud, turn yourself in or you'll be on the run forever. Your daughters, your sons, your kids, you'll be on the run forever. If you turn yourself in, I made you a promise that day.
You did.
That if you turn yourself in and you do your time, and at that point in time, we were looking at 4 years.
Yeah, and they said if I didn't turn myself in, I was looking at 8.
Yeah. Turn yourself in. If you do it, I promise you, every week I'll keep you posted. What we have going on here, I'll keep you ingratiated what we're doing. We'll do Bible studies together. You'll be in Texas, but I'll keep you linked into what's going on here. And the day you get out, you walk back into a job and a career, you walk back into protection, you walk back into stability, and we'll walk through this together. And I tell people all the time, and when I speak in groups, I tell you, it was the greatest sales job I've ever done, was to talk you on the run, looking at 4 years, into turning around, going and turning yourself in, and paying your dues to amend the rights and to get right with society again. Sure. And I didn't think it'd work. I thought you'd keep running, but you didn't. You turned yourself in. You did your time.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
It was probably the single hardest thing I've ever done, is be in charge of giving your freedom away. But it wasn't mine to have. You actually kept me on the phone
walking into the prison. I remember.
Yeah, to the U.S. Marshal's office and said, "Hey, here I am. Okay, I've got to go now." And they took my phone. I say meeting you was the change the trajectory of my life, but that probably was the single most defining moment. I did my time.
Yeah.
As you know, they allowed me to get into a residential drug program, which I wasn't really qualified for because of the length of time. It was kind of fell into a space where, hey, you get 18 months, you get a year off your sentence and 6 months halfway house.
Yeah.
So they got me in there. Well, it's a God thing, man. Got me in there. I went right into a drug program where I became like a senior mentor in that program. I actually gave a speech at the prison in front of the warden and all.
I remember. Yeah.
Thinking back on that, you emailed, you kept me in the loop, gave me a sense of belonging, which is, at that point, it's what you need,
Sure.
And it got me through it's about 22 months when you take all the time off that they give you, the good time, the time for the program, and then the 6 months of halfway house, which I went to. Every week getting an email from you about numbers, which at that time is what I lived for.
Yeah, yeah.
It certainly wasn't as fearful. I wasn't as fearful as I was, to go face that when it was happening. But I also my walk with God, my real walk with God started there.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a reckoning moment in a prison cell to where you realized that who you were is not who you wanted to be. And you didn't have the willpower to change these things on your own, as you needed divine intervention. You needed new life, new creation.
I did.
And that's what broke these chains of generational 100%. Rebellion, man. That's what did it. It
100%.
was a spiritual moment for you.
Yeah.
You get out, you come back to Wichita, you come walking in my office. I didn't recognize you. You had lost, 80 pounds, 100 pounds. Yeah, it was wild, man. You were all chiseled up and man, we threw you right back into the mix as we promised.
Yeah.
But it was not easy. And this is the part, Donnie, please, man, this is the part I want people to understand. Because historically in your life, when you finally got right and you finally started moving in the right direction, the first barrier that came up against you, you went back to the old trigger. You started using again, and then the cycle repeated itself. Yep. And you got out of prison with a scarlet letter F on your chest, felon.
100%.
Now, and you had a guy that was telling you, come on, I'll live up to this promise. We'll put you back in a store. We'll get you stability. But brother, the barriers kept coming, right? The
Absolutely.
Speed bumps were there. But this was different. You had changed. You weren't going to allow these barriers to get you back into using again. Right. What were you facing when you got out of prison, walked into my office? Paint the picture of what you were up against from housing to financial to all of it. What were you up against?
When I got out, I had nothing. I had lost so much weight. I had no clothes waiting for me. I had, when you live a life like I lived, where when you're an addict, okay, the people that you are literally organically forced to be around, okay, they can't give you anything. They can only take.
That's right.
And I was accustomed to giving. And sin for a season, I had things. And when I got there, I had nothing. Nobody sent me anything. My daughters, they kept me together.
They did.
So when I got out, I had no money, zero. Aubrey came and handed me $500 cash. It's a humbling thing for your daughter, your adult daughter, to come give you money. Maddie had, at the time, had a boyfriend that wore my size, got me some clothes. So I got this care packages for my adult daughters, and I went to take on at the halfway house and live there. What I was facing was I hadn't had a driver's license in 20 years, literally. I mean, I was driving around $50,000, $75,000 cars with no driver's license. I had no driver's license. I had $14,000 in restitution, crime and punishment restitution, that they had came back that they didn't get while I was incarcerated. I had $200,000 worth of debt, and $55,000 of that was with the IRS. So that because they went back to all those years I didn't. I mean, that stuff just kept coming and coming and coming. I decided, and this is a Jesus thing, okay? When Jesus delivered me from picking back up, okay, and made it to where I wasn't, powerless, so to speak, and I'll get into that, but I've never, the definition of powerless doesn't apply to me when you have the power of Jesus Christ,
Sure.
okay? When he took that from me, when I made that real heart change, Jesus looks into each one of our hearts. He knows what real change looks like. And then the blessings kept coming. But what I had to do was put in the work, okay? And I drilled down on my W-2 job with you and worked my way back from the halfway house that was taking 25% of my net income, worked through that, and I took $7,000 to get my driver's license back. Mm-hmm. I was habitually revoked,
yes.
Okay? Like 10 driving on suspendeds and revokes. So I paid those off ticket by ticket by ticket by ticket, and I made it a goal, a performance goal out of each thing, each mm-hmm. obstacle. To this day, on my dresser in my bedroom, I have the book, a little Serta book that Skip Hill gave me, mm-hmm. that I kept notes.
Of paying down your debts.
Everything, every goal, scratch. Every ticket, scratch. Every debt, scratch. I filed bankruptcy. I was Chapter 13. I got in front of all my back child support. I ended up I had, years and years of not paying child support. I mean, literally $300,000 worth of debt. And I paid it diligently.
You did.
Diligently. It took me about 6 years to get it all paid.
Yeah, and you did. You get a paycheck, money go to debt. You get a paycheck, money go to a debt. You were living in your daughter's garage for a period of time.
Yeah, on a bed you gave me.
I gave you a mattress. You were living in your daughter's garage,
yep.
Working, paying back debt. But this is the point where most people break again. Mm-hmm. This is the point where most people say, this is too much. And they go back to doing what put them into the predicament to begin with, because they go back to what's known. They go back to the default button. They go back to using to cover the callous.
Sure.
They go back to using to cover the pain, to ignore the pain. But you didn't. You stayed the course. Society said, you owe us a debt, and it was justified.
It was.
And
100%.
You said, and I'll pay it. And I'll pay it. And this is I think the point, because I want to transition a little bit as to why. Well, I want people to know what is now your story. Mm. But this is we're going to talk about shortly how this changed me too. Most people that have heard me speak know that about a third of my workforce in private business comes from the sober living community.
Sure.
I truly believe in accountability. I truly believe, on the flip side of that coin, that when society tells you, a judge tells you, our system tells you, this is the debt you owe to become right again in society, and you're willing to do it, that we need to do a better job of incorporating people back into society and helping them to make amends again.
Sure.
And this is why a third of our workforce is now from the sober living community. This is something that's become ministry for us. Yeah. It's something that's become part of my life's purpose. And you're one of the reasons why, you and several other people that we'll talk about. But you did this. You paid it off. You worked. You had an insatiable desire to live righteously and to have a positive influence on the environment that you're in. I'm telling you, and you and I laugh about it, this concept of new life, new creation. It's funny because sometimes you have to recount. I ask you to do it publicly from time to time to recount your old life. Yeah. And you have a hard time relating to it because it seems so foreign to you, doesn't it?
It does.
That dude doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It's incredible.
So to kind of expand on that a little bit. So I just, I was ministering a couple of days ago. I did a favor for a friend, and there was a couple of people that I know from my old life. They're in new recovery. Guy works at Cessna now. He's really trying, same kind of, background during the use. And my best explanation always is to put Jesus first and say, I can't break it down and explain to you the spiritual transformation that would take place if you believe. But if you believe, let me tell you my story. And I tell my story, and a lot of these people know. This guy asked me, he said, what happened with you to where you even seem like a different human being? And that's always a good segue for the Jesus conversation,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Because, well, I'm him.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just going to tell you this. It's this is the metaphor because I'm a sports guy and I use sports metaphors. You know,
well, you're a Yankees fan. It's easy to be a sports fan if you're a Yankees fan.
And not lately. But anyway, I say if you stack enough wins in between your last fatal mistake that you made, whether that's a relapse, whether that's a violent episode, whatever's attached to it. If your last bad mistake, what you can consider with your own best self-awareness is a bad mistake, stack enough wins in between your most recent win and your last fatal mistake, one of these days you'll look back at your life and you won't recognize it anymore. And that's exactly how I feel. I tell these stories and they don't seem like me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I remember you. I remember that guy. But this guy is incredible. This guy inspires me. So you've stacked some wins. Tell us about the wins, man. How many days sober? Tell us where your life's at right now and what's been happening the last, 12 years?
12 years. I have been clean from all illegal drugs, man, for 12 years, and I don't know how many days, but it's on my phone. Ever since that day, Ryan, that you talked me in there, I've been sober since September 4th of 2013. I never picked up drugs again. I also quit smoking cigarettes that day, never picked those up again. But what's been happening? Well, I paid off all my debt.
How much total?
A little over $350,000. I now, in truth, a lot of that was wiped away with a bankruptcy, but 60 months of Chapter 13 where they took out of your check. You can't change your job. They violate it. They just like anything, they'll take it away. So I married literally, I mean,
a saint.
Yeah, way outkicked my coverage. A woman that agreed, not at my advice. I said, "Hey, think this through. You don't want to do this." She's my age. She's 56, and she took on these two boys that I've been raising.
Yes.
I had custody of them, full custody. I procured after, X amount of years of clean time. I also gained custody of my son, Sean.
Yeah.
Who's
now a United States Marine.
Yeah. He's a Marine. Really, I told you I wasn't going to cry today, but he makes me extremely proud. So I had custody of all three of my kids, paid off all my debt, have excellent credit. I worked my way up from a position that you gave me as a third option in a sales floor that was for two people.
Only needed two, yeah.
For two people, worked my way up to manager, then worked my way up to regional manager over a collection of stores, and then became the director of sales for the Mattress Hub. I am also I want to call it a business now, business owner, LLC, that it's called Salt and Light Furniture Liquidations. Of course, salt and light reference. We want to be the salt of, the earth and the light of the world. My wife and I, we buy semis of very, very low price furniture, and we don't raise it above wholesale, and we help out people that need, that can't afford retail furniture. And we give a percentage of that back to the sober community every month too.
Sure do.
So yeah, those things have all happened. I'm now in my second home. That I bought. Life is good.
I'd say, man.
Life is good.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
What are the components, man, of the successful recovery? Let's talk about recovery in general. Let's talk about what we do in our company and why this moves our hearts so much to pour into people in the sober living community, to give them a chance the way you got a chance, to give them and equip them with the tools to have success. What are these components, man, of successful recoveries?
Well, again, my components were this, all right? And it's hard to explain to people until they are at a point in their life where they have to surrender. And it's not the cliche surrender that the programs teach you. I have nothing against the program. I went through it. But the surrender is surrendering your will, your life to God. I can figure it out on my own. I really, I could do good for or perform for a time, but the trauma responses that I know that I experienced, that affected my decision making. I couldn't do it without God. I couldn't do it without Jesus. So there's the first component. As you surrender, you say, hey, man, I mean, I can't do this alone. So it takes self-awareness.
Yeah.
If you don't have the ability to look at yourself and your own liabilities, which I'm painfully aware of, that I still have, your vices and your liabilities, if you can't make an honest assessment of what's going on, right, you might not know why you make the decisions you make, but the actual assessment, saying, look, this isn't fundamentally right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you ask God, you ask Jesus for help. Guess what? He's got it figured out.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first component is Jesus. The second component is work, work, work. God doesn't, when people say, well, God will provide, well, God doesn't provide the birds with food. Okay. All right. He does, but he doesn't tell them where it's at. They got to go get it. Yeah. Okay. So you got to put in the work. You got to be willing to do the hard stuff. In a society that kind of teaches a little bit different about what you deserve. I know, saved by grace, I deserve nothing. Okay. So I surrendered to Jesus and I put in the work. And then when you achieve real things, tangible things, when you achieve those things, it's a reward. Yeah. That you can't put into words, especially when you've been a massive failure.
Stacking wins.
Stacking wins.
And that we talk about that a lot. When you stack wins, you gain momentum. And
absolutely.
Other people start seeing you stack wins. They start believing. When you start stacking wins, you start believing. And that momentum carries. And then you rally community around you, rally fellowship and other people around you to cheer you on and say, we got you. Yeah. And if there is a setback, we got you. We got you. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving forward. This has become ministry for you. Mm-hmm. This has become ministry for me. Like I said, a third of our workforce is in the sober living community. We've had some incredible successes. You've created a ministry out of this.
Yeah.
We have people in our organization now that have similar tracks as you. Now, I would venture to say that nobody really has quite the resume of Don Smith, who they used to call Gotti. Nobody has that resume in as much as your story does. But man, we got a few people running around in our organization right now that have had incredible success. Tell
them. Well, there's a couple of guys that I could speak specifically about. Emil Fisher.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, without telling too much of his story, but I'll take liberties because I know what he would tell. His is a heart change too. A guy grew up, around these things, these influences that were around him, and whatever drove him to use what he used. He's overcome opiates, and he's such a wonderful human being and such a great person. He's, when you strip away all the madness and all the drugs, man, you get down to what the real person is about.
Come on.
You know?
Yeah, because what we see often is the junkie. Yeah. What we see often is what the junkie does to feed his habit. But when you're able to find success and sobriety and you begin to see people, because broken people do broken things. Mm-hmm. But when you start helping them repair their lives, you start seeing them for who they are.
That's right.
And with Emil Fisher, a beautiful human being, man. Yeah. Who, I mean, this dude, when he walks in a room, he lights a room. And he just, you can see in his complexion, you see in his smile, you see what health looks like. Yeah. And that is, and I'm going to use this term sheepishly, but that becomes addicting. And you start seeing what happens when people have life change and you've supported that life change and given them the stability of work and a stability of a healthy environment. And now Emil just got married. I just did his wedding ceremony recently. He just got married. He's worked with us now for 7 years total. I fired him 3 times in the midst of his addiction, but we got him in a good place. He's doing well now. He's also doing side businesses and side ministry to help to grow himself. It's incredible. We have other guys. I think of Zane. This is a guy who's been sober now for a couple of years, and it's been really hard, but we didn't abandon ship. Oh. Come on, I want to talk to some of my small business people. Listen, you have to steward your company. There has to be accountability. There has to be standards. And anybody that knows at our company, there are standards, there's accountability. If you are trying, and if you are trying to live in a sober living, we will support you. But if you are not sober, you can't work here.
That's right.
You cannot work here. But if you are willing to put in the effort, we'll put the infrastructure in place to support you.
Absolutely.
And this is a guy who, again, has now been sober an extended amount of time, and he's flourishing. He's flourishing now. He's in the process of where you were midway through. He's having to pay back debts and old debts, but we're walking him through this and we're encouraging him. And there is more. This ministry of digging into the sober living community and helping to find purpose and stability and training and growing them, not just professionally, but personally and mentally and emotionally and spiritually. It's rewarded us immensely.
Yeah.
But there's also been pains. Because anytime, as I said, when you deal with broken people, they sometimes do broken things. And we've lost some of these people.
Yeah.
Tell us about a couple.
Well, one of the people that we lost is my best friend. Sean Lund, recently to fentanyl, he was my example for so many years. And his, at least what we can gather, started as a physical pain because of addiction, of food addiction, and his body starting to break down. And he, that first painkiller after 13 or 14 years.
13 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
Back was hurting, wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
Someone gave him a painkiller.
Yeah.
And that painkiller led to more painkillers, which eventually moved into fentanyl, which was an addiction that he physically could not overcome. We sent him to treatment. I think we sent him to treatment twice. Relapse until one pill. And he was found one morning.
Yeah.
I remember the call when you called me that morning. 5 o'clock in the morning, you called me to tell me.
Yeah. I was prepared for the call. I told him so. The last conversation we had, I took him to Scotch and bought him lunch. He called me, said, "Hey man, I'm hungry."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I just happen to be on your side of town if you're on the east side of town." He said, "Well, I'm getting ready to walk to Quick Trip and get a hot dog and a water." This is a guy that once had $300,000 in his retirement account.
Yeah.
I said, "You know what?" And this is during a sober time. He had like 40 or 45 days back in. Right. So we were talking again daily. Because when
he wasn't working for us, he couldn't work for us at the time because his addiction just limited his productivity.
Yeah. So he had been just clean 40 days, but he was having a really hard time staying clean, And I said, "Where do you want to eat?" And he's like, "Well, anywhere." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Scotch." Yeah. Of course. I want an Ernie cut, and I want twice baked potato and some.
Oh yeah, he was going to eat. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I took him to the Scotch and I fed him, and the guy, he just weeped in his plate, man.
Broken.
And he told me, he said, "I've never been so gripped by anything." He said, "The other day my dealer came by and I told him to leave and that I didn't want anything. And as soon as he left, 5 minutes later, I was trying to call him. And he said, while I was making the call, I prayed to God to not let him answer." He said, "I couldn't stop myself from making the call, but I didn't want him to answer deep down." So it's such a complex issue, and that's addiction for you, Mark Weish, another guy we tried. I baptized him at your church.
That's right, man. This was a guy who actually did 4 years in federal prison for bank robbery. Young guy. I think he was at K-State when he robbed a bank.
Yeah.
A lot of trauma in his history, a lot of brokenness. There was suicide in his family. He was, and you told me, you said, "Man, this guy, you met him, he was in a halfway house in Wichita." And this was a guy, he said, he's incredibly talented. And what did we do? We're like, okay, let's see if we can help this kid. Let's get him some structure. Let's see if we can right-size him. And for a period of time, we did, man. Like, he was excelling and having incredible success. But again, the default button, he kept pushing, and broken people started doing broken things. He had no catalyst for why. He wasn't willing to surrender who he was to become something better. And we lost him too.
Yeah, we lost him to a fentanyl overdose.
Yeah.
So that's two. Personally, obviously, Sean, I was the first time I've ever faced grief in my life. I mean, I'm blessed. Everybody in my life is still alive, even at my age. My parents, everybody, my sisters, everybody's thriving. And when he passed, there's no way to really prepare for that,
Yeah.
Just, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we lost those guys to fentanyl, you know, and it's an epidemic, man.
Yeah, it's killing a generation. There's over 200 people a day nationally that die from fentanyl overdose. The fentanyl now that's invading our community now is changing. There's this thing called Tranq that's making its way towards our community that is actually Narcan resistant. I mean, the opioid addiction is something that's rather significant, and we are going to have to get aggressive in our strategies as a community. I'm not talking about government, man. I'm talking about as a community and as families to try to rescue people. But this, Sean and Mark, also with the success stories of an Emil and a Zane and countless others in our organization, it caused us to want to go deeper. It makes me want to rescue people and to get people into better environments. You have a guy, we call him Bobby. My kids call him Uncle Bobby. This is a guy that used to work in my Oklahoma stores.
Jackie's dad.
Yeah. We call him Jackie's dad. Your son's real dad. But this is a guy who has been in and out of treatment and in and out of addiction for years. And what did you moved this guy into your basement to try to help this dude get right with life. And you gave him purpose and hope. So,
you know, I want this. I know the heart of this human being. You know, the things that move us to ministry, man. You know, I have a belief. I have an observation of why you do it, why I do it. I do it because I see pain and I walk through that pain and that trauma. I believe with you preempting maybe, but I believe that what grieves us most moves us to action with you. And I watched you grieve over brokenness. So with Rob is a mixture of two. My wife is like you. She's an empath, man, you know, and she loves Bobby.
Yeah.
And I do too. I'm more of an accountability guy.
Oh, yeah. Bobby, under your roof, it was hard for him. Well, he's been in and out of his addiction. We love him. We support him. He can't work with us when he's using.
No.
He doesn't. We fire him, and you fire him. And I'll even tell you, let's see if we can work. You draw a hard line in the sand. If you're using, you can't work here. If you're in sober living environments with structures in place, we'll support you.
That's right.
We got him now in Minnesota. He's in a treatment facility in Minnesota, and I think Bobby will be back with us shortly. And we'll, for the third or fourth time, we'll try to give him some stability and some supports.
Yeah.
Donnie, what? I'm going to wrap this up, man. I needed people to understand your story.
Yeah.
Because your story is more than just a story of darkness to light, from brokenness to redemption. It's more than that. It's a story of what could be, when there's accountability in place, when there's spiritual interventions that take place, when there's community that is willing to support. Sure. And that's my role in many of this. Now, I've served as your boss, I've served as your pastor, I've served as your friend, and our relationship's really unique. But in the context of your story, what enabled you to find the stability you needed was you had a small business owner that said, we'll walk you through this, man.
Yeah.
Because when you get out with the scarlet F on your chest, that felon on your chest, you have back rents, you have back child support, you have back taxes, you can't get a job, you can't get a driver, all of these different things. And people go back to using and go back to crime because they got to pay the bills and they got to eat. And the intervention is when business and small business says, nope, we have a job to do to ingratiate you back into society. Absolutely. And we can do that and provide that stability. So that's the role here that I want people to understand, that even stories is the depth of your story is that when community can right-size something and turn a trajectory that has generational impact with your two youngest sons, with your Sean now, who's a Marine, man, and serving his country, with your daughters that you're helping to get into their own businesses, and you have, and your beautiful wife and your beautiful family, dude, like you are the American success story. And no one would have ever pegged it where you've come from.
Yeah.
But God. But community. But this is the opportunity and the power.
Yeah.
And this is what moves me when I see addiction, when I see brokenness, when I see this. I think of you, man. And what would have happened if you didn't get that opportunity and the generational impact. So, brother, you're an inspiration.
Yeah.
You're an inspiration.
Thank you. I'll close with saying this, okay? What the first, the nucleus of this thing, okay, is the heart change, okay? But what needs to accompany that, okay? For why small business is so important is because we can become like a family, but we can have accountability.
Yeah.
Okay. We can have a standard and expectations, but we can love you and show it at the same time.
Yeah.
Time doesn't always have to be a factor. Yeah. So the small business component, along with the heart change and the willingness to look at yourself for what your inferiorities, what causes these things. You know, I have strong beliefs, and my ministry is expanding into this because I am a huge proponent for not treating addiction in isolation. Mm-hmm. You know, you said something to me the other day when we had lunch at the Petroleum Club. You were telling me about how there's so many gaps, how you want to stand in the gap, okay, as a county commissioner. You want to stand in the gap where people can't figure it out. Where they say, yeah, well, we want to be here, but we're way over here. How do we fix it? I don't know. Well, here's the thing. We start treating addiction for what it is, and that is a trauma response where your brain, recognizing addiction as a trauma response where your brain, the trauma is just a symptom. Yeah. Okay. It underscores the need for integrated trauma-informed care, man. Get these people to teach these people the why, not the how they're fixing it. We know how. They're picking dope up, man. Yeah. They're covering their trauma with it. Quit treating addiction in an isolated situation. Yeah. And let's treat the trauma. Yeah. When you do that, and I had the ability, and thank God every day for the blessings that I have. I'm cognizant of those. I'm painfully self-aware. I'm still hard on myself. Yeah, I'm trying to become a more emotionally intelligent. Okay, that's a huge thing for me. I'm not. I'm an emotional dum-dum. Yeah. So when you recognize these trauma, the responses, man, don't treat the how. Treat the why. If we could treat the why and give the people a foundation like you gave me to go and win and stack wins, then guess what? You're going to be a winner.
Come on, man. Come on. Brother, bringing you on to tell your story has inspired me the more. I'm going to keep telling your story. People are going to keep walking into our stores and saying, wait, you're the Don Smith guy. I've heard about your story. Because it's a story worth telling. It's a story worth telling because you need to know the success you've had. You need to know the source of your success.
Amen.
You also need to know that people need to see your success. We need people that are in the depths of their brokenness to know that there is hope, and there are people that have walked that and have overcome it. Your story is an inspiration to other people, and we're going to keep telling it, man.
Thank you for keeping your promise.
You got it, brother. Bless you, man. Thank you.